All right, welcome back to Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Cameron Honesty, joined by my co-host, as always, Cannon Torres. We are coming off of a very interesting Week 5 game for the Aggies. Obviously, they played the Auburn Tigers on Saturday afternoon at a 2:30 slot, which, a lot of people, we talked about the last week that a lot of people had, kind of some mixed feelings about that based on the past matchups of the Tigers at that time. Auburn had pulled off a couple, wins in the past in Kyle Field, kind of random ones in those early afternoon games. But, this was a pretty sloppy game by most standards. Obviously, when you come off of the Notre Dame win, obviously scoring 41 points, it was a back and forth shootout. A&M's offense looked elite. I mean, Marcel Reed and transfer wide receiver Mario Craver were just on fire. And then you go to the bye week, they get some rest, guys get healthy. Outside of Scooby Williams, their senior linebacker, actually did not play in this game. Before we get into the details, though, let's just say A&M did win the game 16-10, and they gained one of the more underrated recruits in the 2027 class.
Way to start off the show kind of on a gloomy note.
But no, because sloppy can mean good or bad, and we'll get into the good. We're not going to focus on the bad. The bad will be the penalties, and we'll talk about that. But there's a lot of good to come. But we'll focus on 2027 3-star. I think some consider him a 4-star athlete, Hakeem Frampton, who you and I both knew was going to commit probably on that day. I was right out, especially after an A&M win. So, Ken, you want to kind of break down what the A&M is getting in this young man? We do know he's a very versatile athlete who's played both sides of the ball, but most likely probably going to be a cornerback at the next level.
Yeah, definitely projects as a cornerback at the next level. He's a kid who is actually from the California area, even though he plays his high school ball in Little Rock, Arkansas. So we've seen the Aggies go into both of these states before and kind of pluck their talents. I mean, we saw Ashton Bethel Roman as a kid who the Aggies got late in the 2024 cycle from Arkansas. And then they have gone numerous times over to the West Coast for guys like current commit Brandon Arrington, who's a 5-star cornerback in the 2026 class. But this time they're thinking ahead, and they're getting a really he's a very shifty and dynamic player. Of course, he is still young, but he's going and progressing through his junior season right now. He has he flashes a lot, and that's exactly what we have seen the Aggies do time and time again with their recruiting. Is they take these kids who are these just naturally gifted athletes and kind of develop the athlete before the positional player, and they've been able to kind of I don't know what the right word, but more along the point is Hakeem Frampton just is a very dynamic athlete and very well as a cover man. So that's where we are projecting him to be for the Aggies.
Yeah, and again, we look back at going back to Jimbo Fisher. Obviously, he was, not everything is negative with Jimbo Fisher. Let's just say that, especially in the recruiting trail, he did a very good job, him and his staff, of identifying talent, not just looking at the 4- and 5-star guys and the guys who, a lot of scouting sites and places like 24/7 Sports rank these guys based on, future NFL potential, stuff like that. Obviously, we discussed that briefly with the Arch Manning class with some of the quarterbacks that are up there. That nothing against those guys, but you got guys like Malachi Nelson who are now on his 3rd school and stuff like that. We get wrong, we just get things wrong sometimes.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time. So it's nothing against them. But you look back at guys like Anais Smith, for example, obviously an historic player for Texas A&M, very beloved. I believe he's still a free agent, but his career at A&M defined kind of A&M's culture in a way. Under Fisher, which was a kind of a blue collar, hardworking mentality that has really accelerated under Mike Elko.
You also see like a guy like Albert Regis.
Yes, great example.
Who's currently on the A&M squad right now. I mean, he's gone through these progressions of working his way up and being a veteran leader now who has progressed very well in the Aggie program under 2 different stewardships. Yeah,
and so that 3, and I always say. Iowa State was a great example. Matt Campbell always said, I think it was Breece Hall. Now, obviously, now in the NFL, one of the star running backs. We're a 3-star culture, we're a 5-star culture, 3-star players type of deal. And there is a real factor in that, is that a lot of these athletes who are 3-star recruits, it still means they can end up playing like 4 to 5-star prospects, because there are guys who are 1, 2-star recruits. That's a big difference than a 3-star recruit, in my opinion. A lot of those guys in the very low end, and we do have to remember Justin Jefferson, who would see probably
the 3-star to 5-star,
2-star prospects. So sometimes that's also something that you kind of have to ignore in this process. Josh Allen was a 0-star recruit. He will tell you that all the time, and that's one of the. I mean, look, I understand how you kind of miss on Josh Allen. If you look back at his high school tape, he played at a very small school. There's not a lot of people watching him, and his arm talent developed during his time at Wyoming, so that makes sense. But with A&M specifically, instead of getting off into tangents, Frampton is one of those guys when you turn on the film, he has that elite speed. He has that versatility. He's somebody who Mike Elko and Jay Bateman would just love in this system, that they know that this could be an early riser, someone who's going to work their butts off right when they get here. I'm thinking of guys like Jamarian Morrow right now, who, yes, was a 4-star prospect, was still underrated, obviously flipping him from Missouri. He wasn't somebody who was getting, Alabama type of love and stuff like that. And he's already seen the field a couple times this season. Is going to end up likely being a star for this program for the next couple of years. So that's the interesting thing about recruiting, is that you find out how good these guys are, not by looking at the stars, but by watching every bit of tape you can get your hands on, especially their final 2 years in high school, which if you go back and look at Frampton, like I said, that speed, that agility, someone who can play multiple positions and who just has elite work ethic. That's the reason why, you look at some of those 3-star guys in the past for A&M who have worked out, who have turned into stars. Albert Regis is a great example of that. You talk about hard work. This is somebody who stayed the course, has not looked at the transfer portal, say, I'm not playing a lot. I'm going to go look at my other options. And again, guys who do that, that's fine. That's fine if you do that. But he never looked at it that way. He said, look, I'm probably going to have my shot to be a star maybe in my final year, maybe my second to last year. Right now, we're going to get into it with A&M's elite defensive effort against Auburn, but he's one of the stars on this defense. He's what makes this defensive line go, and he's making everybody around him better. And so if you had missed on a guy like that, he'd be starring somewhere else. And that's why it's so good, because the 5-stars are nice. When you get the 5-star players, when you get the guys like Aaron Gregory, for example, who's most likely should be a 5-star by the end of this recruiting process, it's fantastic, right? You see future star potential. But when you get that 3-star guy, especially at a position like cornerback, I get excited personally. I'm like, I love those guys because I can't wait to see how they're going to develop. Tyreek Chappelle, we're going to get into him later. Another guy who I believe is a 3-star recruit out of Philadelphia, has turned into a must for this defense. He talked about his injury today, for example. And again, we'll talk about that later in the show. But Mike Elko said early in the season, if we didn't have him in our secondary, we couldn't play man. We couldn't do what we want to do.
He's that
leading to these wins. Yeah.
Yeah, he is that important. I mean, you said it before, where you have to have instilled this 5-star culture rather than just getting all the flash with these 5-star recruits. So that when you do land the 5-star recruits, how well are they going to flourish if your culture is not up to the par of 5 stars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of this is how the Big 12 has flourished in many, many years before, where you see teams like Kansas State, where you find all of these guys who are either overlooked by larger programs, but just develop all 4 years under an incredible system. And they just churn out prospects who are just willing to go the extra mile and just be, the best athlete they can be.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's like, be the best athlete I can be for this program. It's not about me. It's about our team. When you play team football, like we are seeing with A&M so far this season, there's no selfishness in that locker room one bit. You look at the wide receivers, you look at Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion on the same team, these guys will be the number one receiver on any team in the country right now. I almost guarantee that. Okay. And they're on the same team and they're not looking at thinking, well, Casey had 100 yards. I only had 50. Well, Mario Craver had 100. I only had, no, they don't care. It's about winning.
It does not matter.
It's about helping this offense move forward. I love to see it. That's why this is honestly one of the most unselfish A&M teams I have covered personally through 4 games. And I'm not saying they're, last year's team was selfish or anything. I mean, there have been teams, especially college football teams in the past, where there are certain stars who expect to be fed on offense, who expect to, be that star pass rusher, who, are kind of thinking ahead to the NFL. That's not the case with A&M. It hasn't been the case with A&M for a very, very long time, maybe if ever. So, I mean, I would just say that this weekend, and we're going to now dip into it. We will mention a couple other recruits. I know you've got some updates and stuff like that. Albert Simeon's one of them, who got a prediction, one of the 4-star O-linemen in the 2027 class was predicted to land with A&M after his visit, which is a big deal. It's an elite O-lineman. This is somebody who Adam Cushing's probably salivating over, to be honest with you. But that just shows you that, and we're going to get into this now, that A&M's defense was, I mean, you'd have to agree with me, right? Probably the best defensive performance we've seen A&M put on since Mike Elko was defensive coordinator back in the day.
Yes, I believe that at least that's what it looked like. Yeah. I mean, when you hold, let's put it where it is. Yeah. The big statement was not allowing a 3rd or 4th down conversion.
0 for 13 on 3rd down.
0 for 13, then I think 0 for 15 or 16 overall.
1 yard allowed in the 4th quarter. 177 yards total, only 52 rushing yards allowed. I mean, when you're watching that game, which was so funny to me. I mean, it was, if you're in the booth or you're watching this fan, you were too focused on the penalties, right? You weren't really because A&M just kept stopping them every drive. Outside
it was just kind of expected at that point. Halfway through the game, he was like, okay, well, they're going to let them out. Here's their 3 plays.
Yeah. And we got to, so we can start with the defensive line. So this defensive line has been, I'd say, average to above average throughout the past 3 games. They really showed out against Notre Dame in the tackling department. Did a really good job of shutting down Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame's star running back. And I will just say this. The reason why A&M's win against Notre Dame is so significant, I hope you all saw what Notre Dame did to Arkansas and got Sam Pittman fired in the process. That team is probably going to win every remaining game at this point. A&M and Miami, who are considered 2 of the best teams in college football right now, are the only losses on the resume, and they were, by a combined 4 points, I think. So for those who aren't paying attention, Notre Dame is an elite team right now who could sneak into the college football playoff. That's what makes A&M's win in South Bend so significant. So keeping with the defensive line, they had a really good game there.
Silence for Sam Pittman here.
Yeah, no, Sam Pittman, good guy, right? Hopefully, I think he gets back on his feet. No, I didn't cheer on the firing at all. I like Sam Pittman; he's a good dude. One of our fellow Aggie coverage guys, Tony Catalina, actually had a good post. He actually worked for Georgia's team, I think, a couple of years, many years ago. Knew Sam Pittman when he was the O-line coach there, said he couldn't have been nicer, even when he saw him last, asking about his family and stuff like that. That's the man that Sam Pittman is, so just put that out there. Elite O-line coach. I think he'll get picked up by staff pretty soon. It's been very hard to be the head coach of Arkansas. And
it's tough. It's tough, man.
Very tough. And to be honest, maybe Petrino, I don't know if he's going to be the –
so we feel for you, Arkansas fans. As of right now, I know the broadcast did show a lot of the 4th quarter. There were a lot of empty seats. So we feel for you, but not as much as we feel for Auburn fans right now, because that was just –
Taylor was right, man.
If you're an Auburn fan, that's just not – I think it's safe to say as of right now, what it looks like is the Jackson Arnold experiment is probably over. Or it's a lost cause. We'll say.
So you've got Deuce Knight on your team.
You've got Ashton Daniels, who is
a good veteran. At this point, play one of them. I'm going to be honest. From a football perspective, A&M's not going to play Auburn again. Not going to happen. It's not. No. Game's over. We're going to move on from that. But just a side note, you got to make a change there. Because, we were talking to Taylor of Auburn Wire last week. He said the same thing. Like, if you lose this game, you're 3-2. You have a bye week. You host Georgia, who is coming off of a loss to Alabama. It could get dark soon. So to avoid the darkness, do something else at quarterback. Because I'll say this. Ashton Daniel and Deuce Knight, both a little more mobile in terms of making plays out of structure, I would think. Jackson Arnold's more of a downhill runner, right? It kind of reminded me of like when Max Johnson was with A&M. That's kind of how he ran. It was that style, just like kind of a gazelle running, right? It was like long legs and then he'd slide. And look, he was making gains. They had a great game against Baylor. They went on that streak. Obviously losing to Oklahoma, now getting just torched by A&M. Got to make a change there. Anyways, move on to an Auburn show. So we're not going to really spend a lot of time there. But so sticking with the defensive line, I think we both expected that they were going to have a good game here because Oklahoma registered 10 sacks against this O-line a week prior. And, look, Oklahoma's defense is very good. They had been a little better than they've just been better statistically than A&M to start the season. But from start to finish, they were eating this O-line alive. Arnold did not have a chance outside of maybe – I guess a handful of clean pockets. I can't even really think of a lot.
There were a couple of clean pockets that I remember seeing, and I do think Jackson Arnold was actually not holding the ball for as much as Auburn fans were giving him all the crap for in recent games. It's just there was nothing that was available to him that he thought would be the correct read, and that's a credit to Mike Elko calling what was a masterclass of a defense. Oh, yeah. That it was honestly incredible. And this was headlined by Torian York this past week. I believe he probably put on one of the best showings he's ever had for an A&M linebacker.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He has this incredible and innate ability to read things before they happen. He's a predictor. Yeah. I think back to many reporters. I can't reference a specific one because many people saw it out. Torian York identified a screen pass to a tight end before the tight end knew the ball was even coming out to him. That is incredible. That full stop. That is incredible.
At this stage, we all expect, and here's the thing. This is why Torian York is maybe the best linebacker right now. Outside of, he's sharing that with Anthony Hill. He's sharing that with a couple guys. But, and again, undersized, right? Undersized. Not looked at as first round pick, look at the size. He's Micah Parsons. No, this is just a pure blue collar. I'm going to study so much freaking film. I'm going to outplay you in every way linebacker. And that's why we all talk about Torian York the way we do. Didn't have the greatest game in coverage. Right? Was a liability in coverage against Notre Dame. Well, guess what he did? He said, screw that. We're not going to have a game like that again. That was one of the best games I have seen him play. He's been a starter since 2023 as a freshman. He's just getting better and better in terms of those, just that all the mental, right? I'm going to study the crap out of what Auburn does. We get what their offense is, right? It's throw the ball to Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton to the boundary, let them basically moss their corners because they're bigger and we think they're better, and just, and we can get into that. Coleman had 4 receptions for 18 yards. They shut him down completely. There were a lot of Auburn fans who said he was just going to go off, and we made that joke about he was a former A&M commit and he was just going to have didn't have a day. Eric Singleton, I think, made 1 catch, and it should have probably been an interception at that point. I kind of look back at the film.
I think it was a 37-yard pass
on the boundary against Will Lee, and Lee Lee kind of looked like he had an interception there. Obviously, it was called a catch. That was pretty much the only explosive play outside of the Xavier Atkins interception.
Which I do want to say, Auburn, their defense played well enough for them to be in that game, even without the penalties. Penalties are a part of that game. I do want to give credit to specifically Atkins because he had an incredible game for Auburn and was a very, very big gift for what they had on the field.
No, yeah. I mean, again, the defense played well. Auburn is not a dead team. They need to make it. They need to make a change of quarterback most likely. They need to clean a lot of things up offensively in terms of, basically pretty much how their offense functions, right? They don't really know. They don't have an identity right now of who they are. I think they thought their identity was their wide receivers. But here's the thing. Notre Dame didn't have a ton of issues throwing the ball. They didn't have a ton of issues getting explosives through the air. We talked about their tight end Eli Raridan had a big day. I think he had like 80-plus yards. So you have two of the best wide receivers. You couldn't scheme anything up. You know, that's the biggest problem, right? Even though I give full credit to A&M's quarterback rotation, Willie had his best game after struggling the first two games. He actually talked about that today. That's what a veteran does, is you just recoup, you get it together, and you go to play. And he took on the challenge against two of the best wide receivers, still two of the best wide receivers in the country. Des Ricks was Des Ricks. Basically, nothing came past him. I mean, he was pretty much I think he had a handful of pass deflections. Nothing was going his way. I think he allowed maybe 2 catches in the game. Tyler Chappelle allowed, I think it was 1 catch for 10 yards in the slot. I mean, they shut everything down. And that's the thing. We talked about Chappelle's importance. When you have both those guys, when you have Lee and Chappelle playing at that level, basically shutting down any type of consistency for this team to find anything, because you would, Auburn tried those screens because they just needed something to get going. Obviously, that's not happening, right? Tornier shutting that down. That defense was pursuing the ball every time. It was an outlet pass. Like, they couldn't get anything going, and it goes back to how it finished, right? It was 4th and 1. Didn't know why Auburn didn't run the ball in the fourth quarter. This was after Marcel Reed's interception, which was a high pass. Like, Colin Klein got a little cute there. They should have run the ball. They should have killed the clock. They should have hit a field goal. If they didn't get in the end zone, that pretty much would have ended the game. But, look, stuff happens. I'm really not going to spend a lot of time on that because Colin Klein did not call a bad game. It was mainly the penalties that were the issue. But after that Xavier Atkins interception, which led to Arnold's touchdown, you thought, oh, maybe they have some momentum. Yeah. No. Got the ball back. I mean, A&M pretty much ran the clock, tried to run the clock out. I saw a lot of people just questioning, why are you running the ball here? Why? Because Elko trusted his defense completely. I mean, they were on communication channel probably saying, look, our defense is going to shut them down. I trust them to do this. We got this much time left. Arnold hasn't done anything all day. Again, 4th and 1, standing like a statue in the pocket. Nothing is open. Gets sacked by Deion Hayes. Just gets crushed by a 3-man pass rush. Or it was a 4-man pass rush. 3 guys got home. Game over. And I'm kind of sitting there. I'm like, I mean, that's probably the greatest defensive effort I have seen in years from this team. And this is something that personally, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me, can really go towards A&M reaching my prediction that they're going to be undefeated by the time they enter Baton Rouge to face LSU.
I originally didn't agree with you just because I think there was probably one game, whether it was, and this was all preseason, whether it was a Florida game, who we didn't know what Florida was going to be before the season started, or Notre Dame. Now, we still do have the Aggies taking on Florida up next week. So we will see them coming off a game against the Longhorns, who are going into Florida for the first time. So it'll be a very, very good thing to see this next week, what they put up against them. But now they definitely do have a chance to be undefeated going into Baton Rouge. So I don't want to have the whole notion of too much of a look-ahead spot. But Mississippi State, who we're going to get into here next, they've put up a very, very good fight against many teams and have done super, super well, turning around a little bit of what they had last year under Jeff Lebby. So I think if we're good, let's preview this game.
Yeah. So I mean, coming off, there's really not a lot we can talk about the rest of the Auburn game because it's just it's really just defensively dominated. We could say that Marcel Reed did have a very good game. I think he was 15 for 22, 207. He had that one interception. Very accurate when needed to be. It's just that every time they got something going, penalty, 3rd and 25 at one point, and then it's like you just
he wasn't great. He wasn't exceptional. He was good and smart.
He was smart and he was focused on the drive. He wasn't focused on I need to get a splash play here. Here's the thing. I think that we need to not judge Marcel game by game. We need to judge the entire season because so far the only mistakes he's made are extremely minor and they're 4-0. So it hasn't cost them anything. So we don't really need to spend a lot of time on that. Either way, this is a win. This is kind of like a win is a win type of situation.
Right.
We just need to get out of this. And I can say that Mike Elko, who was very funny on Monday about the penalties, the Cabo Fun comment was just too much. I mean, I was literally laughing out loud. Like, these guys are going to be more focused going into Mississippi State. Obviously, it's a blackout game, Operation Blackout. I know that everybody, hopefully, even the older Aggies who I've seen in my comments, I hate this. I don't want to look, guys. It's fun. My dad is 65 years old. He's an 82 graduate. He loves it. He thinks it's great. I mean, it's cool. It's fun. Get on the train or get off. That's how I kind of say it. Like,
yeah, you got to be with it in order to get in. So
yes, yeah, exactly. So if you're gonna go, you have to wear black anyways, and you're gonna bring the excitement. I mean, Kyle Field's gonna be the end zones are gonna be black, which I think is so freaking cool. I just love how Mike Elko and them are just trying all these new things to get people excited. And again, this isn't a throwaway game. Like, it's kind of funny it's on the SEC network because this seems like a more important game to be on like ESPN or ABC because Mississippi State, we're going to get into that now, is a pretty darn good team. I will say that. One of my writers, Dylan Flippo, is a Mississippi State grad. Actually graduated from there this May. Worked for the team for a little bit. He knows them very well, and we've talked about that some. And they're very balanced, right? So you're kind of looking at I can read off some stats to start. So these are kind of the comparisons. So scoring offense, Mississippi State's 21st, A&M is 38th. Scoring defense, Mississippi State's 32nd, A&M is 72nd. I mean, that's going to get better and better throughout. But again, you're kind of seeing the difference here. Pass off efficiency, A&M is 40th. They're 56th. Defensive efficiency, they're 69th. A&M is 33rd. Rush offense, this could be a problem, right? But A&M's run defense is one of the better units so far this season. They're 9th in rush offense efficiency. Keep forgetting his name. Fluff
Bothwell.
Bothwell, yeah, Bothwell. Very good back. Very elusive. Somebody who could be a problem if they get going. But overall, third down offense, they're 37th. A&M has been one of the worst. They're 126th. And that's something I think is going to get better throughout the year. So that is something, like, they are very efficient, right? If you are one of the top-ranked third down offenses, it means you're consistently moving the ball. You're not having to punt a ton. You're finishing drives most of the time. That, facing an Auburn team that's been, I don't know, I'm not going to say horrible on offense, but just,
there's a different way of
exactly
preparing you for a game against Mississippi State, who last week they went toe-to-toe with Tennessee.
With Tennessee, lost in overtime, yeah.
Yeah. There's a different way of preparing than if you were facing Auburn rather than Mississippi State, because they are not the same type of team you have to prepare for. You said that their rush attack is very, very potent. Now, this is a team that is they are flawed, but they are improved from this past season. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Even last game, even though they went into overtime against Tennessee, you said Fluff Bothwell, but if you guys remember last season, they also had another running back by the name of Davon Booth, who also looked very good against the Aggies as well. So they have this dynamic tandem of rushing attack where last game, both of those backs combined for 40 rush attempts, I believe, and over 180 yards of rushing by themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what you have to prepare for, rather than Auburn, who was a very volatile team coming in, and you didn't know which way, besides potentially their top two wideouts, how they were going to beat you down the field. So there's that little contrast when it comes to both these teams. So Mississippi State went into overtime, and Tennessee did win a thriller against them, but Mississippi State's 4-0 or 4-1, sorry, coming off that loss. So it'll be interesting to see how the Aggies are going to prepare differently, because that rush defense, like you said, is pretty good considering the teams they faced so far, like Notre Dame, and even last week with Jeremiah Cobb for Auburn, who I thought was a very good running back. Mm-hmm. They just never got him started for Auburn. So when I look at this game, it really does have to be how are you going to prepare for Blake Shapen this time around? Because you didn't get to face him this past season.
True.
You saw Van Buren, who's now the backup over at LSU. So Blake Shapen is a guy that the Aggies have had on their radar for a while and are ready to prepare for, because he does beat you in a different way that Van Buren would last year. This is also, even though Mike Echo said in his press conference Monday that he's not exactly looking at a revenge game, but this is a technical homecoming for Mario Craver, who transferred from Mississippi State to the Aggies in this past offseason. I don't think he's talking about it. I think he's just focused on the game ahead. But this is a game where he can kind of put his talents on display. A blackout game is probably the perfect way. This is not a Mississippi State team that gets heavily penalized on offense either.
Yep.
They are one of the, I believe, the top 30 teams or the least 30 teams in terms of flags thrown on offense. They're a very consistent program when it comes to their offense thus far. So I am very, very excited to see what they're going to do this game against the Aggies.
Yeah, and the penalty thing is not surprising. So I kind of equated to I forget the school. It was like St. Mary's or St. I think they beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament a couple years back by St. Peter's, yeah, who making a ton of free throws, which is a strategy you have to do when you're smaller and not as talented going against a team like that. It's also
shout out Doug Edert for
that. Yeah. And so, yeah, for Mississippi State, it's not surprising that they're one of the least penalized teams. They had to be very, very focused because they didn't know what this team was going to look like. So basically a new roster. They got shredded through transfer portal, had to get a lot of new players in like a lot of schools. QB health was an issue. Like you said, he's healthy. He's playing very well this season. They had star potential running back. We always knew that they had two studs there. The wide receivers shined. They've got a couple of very speedy guys, even though Mario Craver's not there anymore. When they played, I'm kind of losing the name, the young man who scored basically the game-winning touchdown against Arizona State. One of the faster wide receivers.
Brennan Thompson?
I believe it was Brennan Thompson, yeah. And I think he's one of the leaders in reception or receiving yards.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, in the SEC. So, again, they've got speed there. Speed kills, as we know. This secondary is going to get a lot of deep throws thrown at them. They're gonna take shots in this game because I think they're going to – but, again, it's up to – and this is basic football. It's up to this defensive line showing out for the second straight week and getting pressure and really forcing him into tough throws, because if you can do that, this secondary is going to calm down a bit. They're going to get into their sets, and it's not going to be the type of game and the type of trap game, which I think some Aggie fans maybe think after playing in Auburn, where A&M's defense basically controlled that game throughout. And look, I do agree with Mike Elko. Like Mississippi State has been the thorn in A&M's side for many years, right? We look back at one of the years before I started professionally covering A&M was the 2021 season. I remember that loss before they beat Alabama. That was a crushing loss. I look back, that 2021 roster had the potential to make the college football playoff. They had QB issues. Obviously, Haynes King got hurt early in the season. Zach Calzada was forced in there. But I'll never forget that loss. I mean, it was so damaging because Mississippi State was not that good of a team. They came in with that air raid offense. And really, yeah, A&M just had no shot. It was just an ugly game. I mean, it ended with like Calzada getting sacked, and it does leave a bad taste in your mouth, right? Because yeah, you beat them last year, but it was still a tough win on the road against a pretty bad Mississippi State team, and it was a highly contested game, and they always bring it, right? That's the thing about Mississippi State. We didn't expect them to do anything this year. The fact that they're 4-1 already with a win over Arizona State, who's one of the better teams in the Big 12. Taking Tennessee down to the wire. We believe Tennessee is the college football playoff team. That's probably beneficial to the Aggies, that they kind of look at, well, they scored 41 points and won in overtime. That's probably a good thing. It's like, well, maybe we can get our offense going because they're not the best defense, but they're pretty efficient. They could hold you to 27 points and keep it close. But this is a game for both sides. I mean, A&M's offense wants to finish drives. They want to get it going. I mean, it was such a weird game throughout that when those penalties just kept backing them up. It's like, well, we have 414 yards. I mean, it's 16 points. It's like unheard of, right? It's like very odd because you look at 16 points, you're like, they had like 240 yards. No, 414. That should equate to like 30 points or something.
A&M's rushing attack in that game against Auburn gapped Auburn's total offense.
Yeah. So that's going to be the big part is that Mississippi State's run defense, I think it's 67th nationally. This is a Le'Veon Moss game. He already tore up Auburn's elite defensive line. They were boasting about it days before. They're like, nobody runs on this line. And then he goes for what? It was like 128.
We're paraphrasing here, but yes.
Well, they basically I saw the tweet, Kenan.
We saw the Auburn athletic football team.
Nobody runs on it. I mean, I just wouldn't say that before games. I wouldn't be like, nobody passes on it, and then some guy throws like 400 on it.
It's all right. We saw half the comments on that were Auburn fans before the game going, "Why did you
stop it? Just don't do it."
It's funny that you bring up the rushing from Mississippi State, like their attack. It's eerily similar to the distribution last year under Colin Klein, where Mississippi State is a team, even though they are a spread offense where they stretch sideline to sideline with their wide receivers, they really do like running the ball just under 2/3 of the time, right? Yeah. They try and get these running backs involved at the start so that it opens up the game for their quarterback. We saw it happen last year in a game where Van Buren looked okay, but ultimately A&M's defense was able to win out on that. But we saw a couple of plays last year where, their running back we saw Davon Booth get, turn up field multiple times during that game. So that's exactly what I think is funny, that they almost won against Tennessee, who they used the same exact offense. Like, oh, Josh Heupel's been running this offense for years. No, Jeff Lebby's been running it for longer.
Yeah. Jeff Lebby is, look, it's not a surprise. It's a surprise that he's turned it around so quickly. I'm not surprised that it's turning around. Like, he's a very good coach. He was a steal, I think, in that job. I think when a lot of people are like,
absolutely,
is he ever going to turn it around? I'm like, he's an offensive coach. He comes from a good system, and and it's not difficult to recruit at Mississippi State. It is a respected SEC program. Right. Go ahead.
Ultimately, he knows the state of Mississippi and around the surrounding areas like Alabama for recruiting as well.
Yes. Right? So, yeah. And, yeah, that helps a lot. There's a lot of talent there. So he's going to be the first there. So they're going to build that program into a competitive SEC program. Really, I mean, there's no weaknesses in the SEC. We've seen Kentucky is the worst team, right? That's it. Kentucky's the worst team. Everybody else is the competitor, it seems like. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
But yeah, again, I'm not, even last week I was a little hesitant, right? Because I knew Auburn's defense was one of the best in the country. I knew how they played against Oklahoma, even though John Major broke his hand, was it halfway through or at the end? I don't know. But
it was in the first quarter.
Yeah. So that probably hindered them, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, I just don't understand they did that. He's one tough SOB. But that's why, right? I thought maybe they could limit A&M, which they did. I think penalties limited A&M more because they were moving the ball. But
absolutely.
So if that's the case, I just don't think you're that scared of Mississippi State. I think you come into this game thinking we produce 414 total offense. We shut down this Auburn offense that has been hailed is potentially elite all offseason, even though they haven't really produced that much. But still, the threat is there to basically nothing. And now we're facing a Mississippi State team that is coming off a loss at home. Very disappointing, right? Very disappointing loss. And now you have to go on the road in a blackout game and potentially sold out again, Kyle Field. That's going to be louder than anything you talk about cowbells. It's going to be louder than that, okay? And you're facing your former wide receiver, Mario Craver, who maybe he felt like he was a little disrespected. They didn't try to hold on to him, with.
There are factors at play.
Yeah.
It's just a gut punch spot for Mississippi State if you lose this game, because you were looking ahead to what the program could be, and you almost did beat Tennessee, who has been a marquee program for the past couple of years under Heupel. and you thought you were turning the corner. But if they were to lose this game, it's just everybody's going to say, oh, it's just Mississippi State from recent years. That's not what they want to have happen.
No.
They want to be able to come into a harsh road environment like Kyle Field and try and scrape out a win. Elko does not want to have that happen. He is going to prepare this team exactly how he wants it.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're 100% right. That's where I'm kind of getting to. It's just if this was Jimbo Fisher, yeah, sure, I'd call it a loss possibly because of just the way that team under him was not 100% prepared for the moment. Like they win these big games, and then you either go on the road against us at Mississippi State, or like you play a Vanderbilt even or somebody like that. And they didn't play. They played Vanderbilt like once, but somebody even like a Kentucky. And you just don't give it your full effort, and you're just not 100% there. And that hasn't been the case for A&M all season. You can talk about even the UTSA game, right? You can talk about, well, Robert Henry had those 2 big runs, and they were nearly tied at one point. Well, no, then A&M basically shut them down completely in the second half. That was the first game of the season. And then you go into Utah State, who gave Vanderbilt everything they could take the other day. So that's just a competitive program. You shut them down in the second half. Then you go on the road and you have to win on offense, and you beat Notre Dame. You're winning in all the way. Joe Klatt, put A&M as I think his number 14 in the top 10. And he actually said it perfectly. I don't agree with Joe Klatt on everything, but he said it like he's actually watching these teams. He's not doing helmet scouting like some of those guys do. And he's saying, look, A&M won both ways. They can win a football game completely on offense in a shootout, or they can shut you down on defense.
That's what 180 from the Notre Dame game to the Auburn.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You see that if you are a true football analyst, college football analyst, and you're looking at the entire landscape of who are the actual good teams, you can't not include A&M because of how they've won these games. And so these next 2 home games, starting with Mississippi State, are going to be, again, very crucial to the progress they're making. Is that Mike Elko-led teams are not going to let up. They are not going to let up after wins. They are not going to let up after big road wins. They're not going to let up after the bye week. They're going to fix the fixable, which are the penalties. They're going to do everything they have to do to get a win and protect home field. And then when it gets to that tough road clash, when you're facing Arkansas, when you're facing LSU, and facing Missouri, who still looks like one of the better teams on the road for 3 consecutive weeks, you're going to be ready for that. You may not win all those games, but you're going to be ready for it. You're going
to be dang prepared for it.
Exactly. And that's what these home games are for. And that's why, I understand the apathy. I understand that some fans saw the comments, I'm more afraid of this game than I was against, I was versus Auburn. I'm like, well, as someone who covers this team, I was more afraid of the Auburn game. But for some reason, I saw how they finished. I listened to Mike Elko on Monday. I listened to the players on Tuesday. These guys aren't looking at that game like a loss. They won the game. That's the SEC. You got to win these games. That's all that matters. You can look at the film and go, well, crap, we need to cut 13 penalties, cut that in half, cut that even more in half, right? You do that, you score 34 plus points. That's it.
Defense? You utilize the amount of yards you had does not accurately reflect the penalties. So, you said, if you do cut these penalties down, how much are you actually going to be able to score?
Yeah, I mean, you would have blown. This would have been a runaway game. It would not have been a matchup. That's why it was so funny when Xavier Atkins made that interception and they scored the touchdown. We've got a game here. I'm like, do we? Do we have a game here? Because the only time you could get in the opposite end zone was off of a pick that was a mistake, right? You had to capitalize off of one mistake, and then you didn't get back there again. So it's like you dominated that game either way. Pro Football Focus really accurately graded everything. I mean, the defense, the pass rush grades, they said this team dominant, no matter the score, it was dominant, right? And that's why Mike Elko, after the game, obviously he's probably joking, or I don't even know, but, stop being so negative to the media, which I thought was kind of hilarious.
I have the exact quote here if you want me to read it.
Yeah, you can read it. I was going to put it on. We were going to put it on and have time, but I was laughing. So I'm like, he's either taking a jab at Brian Kelly, or
he is not taking a jab at Brian Kelly. He's more here. I'll say the quote, and you can make up your mind for yourself. So he said right after the game in his press conference, where he felt like there were too many questions about A&M's struggle Saturday and not enough about the team's accomplishments. So he said, end quote, "Does anybody want to ask a question about us being 4-0 for the first time since 2016? How did the defense bounce back, or how you held them to 176 yards on offense and you had 5 sacks, and they were 0 for 12 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth down, and you got the return game going again? I mean, I don't want to sound like someone else, but my gosh, will you guys stop being so dreadful and gloomy?" Please.
No, journalists, look, the journalistic question, look, I've been in those. I understand. Like, well, why didn't you score in the second half? That's journalistic integrity. You got to ask the tough questions. Well, why was your offense stalling? And I understand his anger. And I said that in an article, like, I get it. I'm not like protecting him or whatever. I'm just saying, when you really look at the numbers the next day, it takes a day, right? It takes a day to really look at the numbers, look at the film, and go, that was a beyond dominant football performance from a football standpoint, from a media standpoint of like, well, you should have scored this many points. It should have been a blowout. Fine, but context is everything, right? So I think there's some joking there, but there was also Elko like being, look, this is the SEC. This is life in the SEC. You're going to have really close, nail-biting games, and you're going to have blowout wins. You're going to have LSU games where we're down 17-7, and then I make a quarterback change, and then we just run away with that thing, right? That's just football. What they want to avoid is what happened last year. That's what they want to avoid, is they want to avoid a hot start, 7-1, and then one injury just right? That's what they're avoiding. Can't avoid injuries, knock on wood. But at the same time, you can't avoid the avoidable. And if you start doing that, you have to do that at home over these next 2 weeks, because it's going to get so freaking tough. Even with Bobby Petrino now as interim head coach of Arkansas, that ain't going to be an easy game. Like, we'll see how they respond, right? We'll see over the next 2 weeks or whatever, watching Arkansas, how they actually play football.
I mean, he has been given full control and has axed already 3 members of the coaching staff on the defensive end. So, it'll be very interesting. I mean, you see the next couple matchups for A&M, where you have 2 more home games against Mississippi State and Florida, and then you go on the road to Arkansas. So all 3 of those teams, actually Mississippi State is kind of the look ahead spot, where you're seeing Florida and Arkansas, who have their own qualms about their teams right now, all kind of downtrodden, so to say. But it really comes down to this week, looking at right ahead to the team ahead of you and focus 100% on it.
Yeah, and that's the Elko way. That's the difference. That's why if you are an A&M fan and you want to find confidence, you don't want to go into every week on the edge of your seat. That's not the case with Elko, right? Especially in this season. I think he's we got a long season ahead of us, but I think he's beginning to prove that when things aren't working on one end, they damn sure are on the other end. And so there's 2 games that can explain that to you. And it's not going to be any different against Mississippi State. There's still going to be that apathy that's going to seep in of, well, they're pretty good, and it's here, and it's it's this time of the season where we've kind of been shaky and stuff like that. No, there's a reason they picked this game to be the Blackout, to be perfectly honest with you. There's a lot of details surrounding it. So let's kind of get to the betting odds of last week. I think that was kind of funny, right? It was I think they covered the spread. I'm not sure.
Auburn covered the spread.
Yeah, so they're good for them. There's your win, Auburn. So this week, I think one of our comments actually said that I think it's a 15-point spread right now. I thought 14.
I believe it's been knocked down to a 14 or 13.5 point spread at home.
Yeah, so I think, and so from my perspective, I think that kind of makes sense. It's just the way A&M has played night games in the past. I think if the offense does get going, like we said, this is going to be A&M's run game getting going, which is going to open up that passing game. It's going to open up play action. That's where the scoring can really start to get out of hand in a way in A&M's favor. However, it is kind of interesting to me that Mississippi State, I don't know if they've earned that type of line, right? They played pretty well. Yeah. I think that they either are really confident in A&M right now, or they just think that Mississippi State has gotten lucky this season, and they've gotten lucky at home that's kind of what's interesting,
for,
right?
For the people setting the lines, I think they're looking at a spot where, like I said earlier, the Mississippi State gut punch effect, where you just lost a thriller in overtime to Tennessee and now have to go on the road at night game, Blackout Stadium, against A&M, who has had a more potent offense this season than many teams in college football, and have to try and beat them on the road. It is very, very hard to do that. And also, like, you lost a couple of guys in that game against Mississippi State. You lost your starting right tackle, Albert Reese, who got injured. Your all-SEC safety, and Isaac Smith, and Brylan Lanier. They had injuries during the game, and they didn't return in the game. So we'll see how that measures up with the SEC media or SEC reports coming out this week. But
it should be released by, I think the first one's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, yes.
So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see the outlook. A&M,
it's those injuries with the culminative effect of you're coming off of this loss, and it's just not great for morale in the long run, especially if you go into this game and just kind of feel the effects in the first and second quarter.
Yeah. So, how did you get out of that game? I know you had the wedding. But
so
good old underdog fantasy to have a little fun on the side.
Thankfully, I was a victim of a fall wedding, but for better for worse, the groom was an Aggie grad, so he was more than fine with a phone propped up at a table. It's how we do it in the South.
Yeah,
where you can have whatever football game up on your phone while the reception is going. Obviously, no football during the actual marriage presentation and during the wedding, but after that, I was able to see and kind of get into the weeds of all the games in the afternoon. It was really funny.
Yeah. So tell the people, obviously, we've got our weekly offer with good old underdog.
Oh yeah, we've got. Let's see if I can pull up the exact line now. I mean,
because these are early lines right now. I think
underdog right now. If you were to select them on Mississippi State, plus 400 is the odds as of right now on underdog. So if you feel like 14 points is too much and want to choose Mississippi State outright, you're more than welcome to do that. Underdog is a partner of the show. So if you actually just bet, I don't want to say bet, but if you play a $5 wager on their site, you picked a line, you pick two fantasy things up right now. We'll actually bring our sponsor right up here. So if you play 5, you get $50 instantly in your account. So we cannot endorse this enough. So where it's just fun. I mean, I made a couple extra bucks, Cameron, this past week during that Packers Cowboys game. When that 0-yard sack happened with Micah, definitely helped
save the game. Yeah.
It definitely saved the game. But as always, use the code VOCFB Aggies on Underdog. If you do that, you get your if you play $5, you get $50 right into your account right there. So go ahead and check them out.
And as always, participants must be 21 or older. If you have a gambling problem, you can always call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, so yeah, that was that kind of leads us in. So I did see the line when we did ours betting updates for Aggies Wire, and I was kind of shocked by it, but I think you kind of answered that. It really probably has to do with injuries. I don't think it has. A&M's only injury right now, outside of Bryce Anderson, who's he's going to be back in an unspecified date. I don't see him coming back till, honestly, maybe on the road. I'm not sure.
November is where I'm kind of
probably thinking. November. That's what I'm thinking. But Scooby Williams, obviously their senior linebacker, he said he was day to day this week.
He was day to day on Monday.
Yeah. So that's that was kind of interesting to me because day to day to me isn't the best news, but it could just mean that we're not trying to rush him back because of his importance and because of the way Damian Sanford played in his absence. Had one of his better games, actually registered one of the 7 sacks in the day. So you want him back, right? You need Scooby Williams back especially in coverage. He's just so crucial to have the middle of your defense operates. But at the same time, York is playing at such a high level. Like I said, Sanford's playing very well. You've got Jordan Lockhart. You've got even guys like Tristan Jernigan who can give you some depth there. So it's not like you need him to be rushed back, especially with an ankle injury. Like you and I being Cowboys fans, like I'm not worried about the offense. CeeDee Lamb, please just stay off of that thing until it's completely healed. So it's like high ankle sprains are nothing to joke around about. But either way, it is good for A&M knowing that really Williams is the only guy on their injury report and that they came out of that Auburn game completely healthy. So
yeah, really, really cool. And don't think we've forgotten about you, Jerome Miles. We know you are done for the season, but
yes,
we are still wishing
he's going to be a star for this team one day. Yeah,
we are still wishing a speedy recovery for you.
And who knows? He could be playing with a certain guy we mentioned who plays for Auburn, and used to be an A&M commit. You never know, at this point. We'll see how Auburn's team finishes out the season. But
yeah, considering that, I think it was interesting, the story of Will Lee, the blanket, like locking pretty much locking down Coleman this past weekend. And then I don't know if you saw the stuff on Tuesday where a lot of A&M kind of reporters or people who closely cover, they got to ask him a couple of questions. He actually said that he was going to forego his JUCO rule or his waiver, and he's going to actually just declare for the NFL draft following the season.
Yeah, I don't blame him for that. I saw that immediately. I heard it from somebody else, and I was like, look, I mean, good for him. I mean, he's 6'1", probably even measured at 6'2" at the next level. He's 190 pounds. He's literally what the NFL needs on the boundary. Like, this is the type of prospect that he will, and it's actually very smart strategically to say that now, get it out of the way, let us and everybody else kind of write about it for a second, and then go forward with the season. Because you don't have to like keep it on the back burner and say, well, I might come back, or I might just say it now. Look, you've done everything you could for A&M. You spent 2 solid season years. You could end up having your best season and A&M's best season. We don't know, right? If you can cap this off with a playoff appearance, well, hell, you're ready to go to the NFL. And to be honest, Mike Elko and Bateman and Jordan Peterson and all of them have a plan going forward. Obviously, Des Ricks looks like your next superstar corner. You already knew that Tyrese Chappelle was going to be gone going into next season. This is the last year. You feel like you've got a very good replacement for him in Bravion Rogers, who's shown some flashes in the slot. And so you've got a plan. You've got some young guys too, and you will end up utilizing the transfer portal to probably replace some of that cornerback production. So it's not detrimental. It's one of those things where you're happy.
It's one of those things that just makes sense.
Get
out of the way.
He's right.
Be something, even though we're still going to be waiting for that graphic of, hey, declaring for the NFL draft for Will Lee the third. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to just see him wrapped in a blanket saying, I've, declared for the draft.
Yeah. And he's one of those players who, like, it's always just fun to me when these guys do get to do that, because especially the ones who give everything they have for a program. Right, that was like Anais Smith, Jalen Jones.
Yeah,
I think he's sadly injured right now, but was a 7th round pick with Indianapolis, has become one of their better cornerbacks. They did everything they could for this program, right? So when they declared, there were no hard feelings there, and that's going to be the same for Will Lee, right? Because you do hate when a guy maybe goes out a little too early. He's not ready yet. We've seen that in the past with some players, but I don't know how much more ready this guy can be, right? He could have declared last season, right? He could have left. He could have gone to the NFL in the 2025 draft. I think it was a good idea to come back. I think that for one of the toughest positions, especially the NFL, like, cornerback is not easy. I mean, to find great cornerback play is nearly impossible in today's, passing league where, you basically need a shutdown corner on the outside.
It is very, very hard to find that shutdown corner. You see the numbers and the disparity between an elite wide receiver and an elite corner. I think the elite corners are outnumbered 3-1.
So, it's kind of funny. Like, we mentioned the Dallas game. George Pickens, who's one of the toughest, by the way, credit to Jerry Jones. I never do that. I'm not going to in the future.
You take that back.
Stop it. No, he won that trade. for a second round pick. But Pickens kind of shows you that even against a good Green Bay secondary, which I think they are a pretty good secondary. I think they came into the game as one of the better pass defenses in the NFL. It's very hard to cover a player like that with that type of length, that type of catch radius. When you get guys like that, you look dumb, right? You look bad at your position, but you're not, right? You're not a bad corner. You're just going against guys that are just a little better than you. And so if you do get a guy like Willie who's refining everything this season, he's getting those struggles out of the way, and he's finally playing up to that elite standard we're expecting from him, that's only going to help him. And I mean, that's just smart to do it now. Get on those scouts' radars during the next 2 months. And they're going to be watching you all the time, especially in these upcoming games, going on the road against good wide receivers. So I applaud him. I think it was a great move. He's an awesome dude, too. He's a great interview. There's a lot of guys in this program that you get excited to hear from. He's one of them. I loved hearing from Chappelle, who actually – I mean, again, like Le'Veon Moss tore his ACL and some of his MCL last year. That's why he came out as during practice. He thought it was a bone bruise, I think, which is crazy how you're like, well, it's just a bone bruise that you get an ACL diagnosis. Like, damn, man, that's just nuts. But, he talked about how his daughter helped him get through the injury recovery process. And so far, just been fantastic.
It's heartwarming, man.
It is. And that's what you want from these player interviews, because if we're just, as the kids say, just talking ball, look, fans just don't want to hear about scheme. They want to hear about the personal stuff. They want to get to know these guys, especially in this NIL world. You want to know these guys on a personal level. They're human beings like the rest of us. We just enjoy watching and covering them play football every Saturday. So, let's, we will, if you want to touch on some basketball stuff after we do our predictions, be my guest, because we haven't really touched on that yet, if you have anything.
I mean, we've had a couple of official visits going on the past couple of weeks. It's kind of that season. Everything's kind of going along the lines for those official visits. So there's not much to talk about right now. They hosted 2 official visitors this past weekend in a top 25 prospect in Colbin Landrew out of Wheeler in Alabaster, Georgia. So this is a guy that the Aggies and Bucky McMillan have kind of pegged as one of their top priorities when it comes to this class. They've already landed a top 70 recruit in Nico Monday.
What a baller.
Yeah, absolute awesome. So they are looking to add more to this class ahead of time. Colbin Landrew is one of the top prospects on their board. And so is top 40 prospect Josh Irving out of Pasadena, California. This is a 6'11" center who has just about as much upside as you could possibly ask for in a system like Bucky McMillan. So he also visited this past weekend and was able to tailgate over with the Aggie basketball team when they took on Auburn. So very, very awesome to see that this new staff is recruiting as well as they are. They're going to continue working really, really hard on at least those 2 prospects, and they are in it for a ton more.
Yeah, that's great news. I mean, I keep seeing, and we don't focus on basketball too much right now. That's why we have guys like you to do that for us. But it was nice to see that these guys are visiting right now. They're getting to the process. Bucky McMillan is embracing football. He's embracing the games. He's embracing all the athletics here to take advantage of this time before basketball season starts. And there were a couple injury updates, obviously. If you actually want to hit on that, like two over there. Pop Isaacs first. I think he practiced fully. And Pop Isaacs, who transferred in from Houston by way of Creighton, he was sidelined for a lot of this past calendar year with a hip injury that he had to get surgery for. He has been since cleared to return to active practice and was able to go through a full practice under Bucky McMillan this past week. We're also getting word that Mackenzie Mbako has also had pretty much a Jones fracture in his foot. Yeah,
and he'll be sidelined until either mid-November or late November. We're projecting probably a early December return for him, if not late November.
Yeah, we're thinking, and one of my writers, I think we were kind of like, I think he'll probably be back for that ACC SEC challenge versus Pitt. I think that's probably
will. Yes,
timeline for that, and that's probably good that this happened now, because you will be. I think the non-conference schedule is pretty favorable. I think that, I mean, there's hiccups there. You don't know how this team's going to look with chemistry. Actually, we heard some very good things that these guys feel like they've been playing together for a long time, which is very good to see. The quote that Rylan Griffin with
wisdom tooth surgery. Wisdom tooth surgery Rylan Griffin has had, but he also, that quote specifically, it was like a what was it?
Dog on Zoomies.
Dog on Zoomies.
I forget, but I was like, I don't know. I guess that's good. I'm not.
Hey, he is. He's probably exactly right. I don't even think to this point McMillan and his staff have gone 100% at practice yet. They are. When you attend a Bucky McMillan practice, you know exactly how hard they are going to go in that practice.
I have very high hopes for this team. I think they kind of start rising. Like I would temper expectations. Like I get that, like first year coach, but I'm telling you, I just keep hearing such good things. I see the depth. I see that these guys are playing well together so far. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun. So let's.
If what I think is going to happen, in that they are ready to install their expectations of trying to make this tournament in year one, I'll be vindicated in exactly what I thought many years ago when, under the right stewardship, this Aggie basketball program could go the mile.
Yeah, and again, there's concentration in it. There's financial concentration in it. That's the biggest part. A&M has done such a good job at kind of allocating those funds, and they're going to continue doing so with obviously football number one, baseball, basketball, all the other sports after that, volleyball, which has been kicking ass. So it's, but yeah, that's why my expectations are high, right? There's a focus there. You get the right guy in there, get the right staff in there. That's for sure. And you got a team that I just think can be one of the better scoring teams in the country. So let's get to our predictions. I think we can do this pretty quickly, actually. I am picking A&M to outright win this game. I'm very confident.
Okay.
I was way more like on edge with the Auburn game for many reasons. But I think that this week and the press conference that we talked about, Mike Elko and all that, this team is completely focused. I think the fact that he's joking like that at a press conference shows that this penalty stuff's going to get cleaned up. Like, it's not like this team is too focused on the job at hand to keep doing stupid things, which are, again, personal fouls. The will say that Alvarez, like the suplex move, like I get you can't do that, but they're going to call personal foul on that dude. Just avoid it, just tackle him, and just, you can celebrate after. Just don't do that, because they're always going to call that now. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I was actually kind of almost yelling internally. I think probably yelled out loud, actually. It's stupid. But it is what it is. They're just going to call that. So, personally, I think this run game is going to be great. I think that Le'Veon Moss is going to have another fantastic game. Obviously, that's kind of the weakness of Mississippi State. They may try to focus on it, but I think if they can have the same production they had against a much better and much more stout Auburn front, I think it's just going to wear him down. It's going to open up Marcel Reed. I think he's going to have to take off a couple times in this game and make some plays with his legs. But I just think that Casey Concepcion, Mario Craver, I think Ashton Bethel-Roman is kind of starting to show a little bit something. I think this wide receiver group is just going to be too much for the secondary. I think Mississippi State is still a young team. They're still a new team that's kind of on a high. That's, I'm going to be honest, kind of similar to A&M last year. Very new team. We were all very surprised that they started 7-1. I think Mississippi State fans are very surprised they started 4-1. But I think they're kind of running into a buzzsaw right now against an A&M team that is ready to just get back to their winning, like elite, like dominant winning ways, which is a balanced offense and elite defense, and showing out in the Blackout in their fan base, getting ready to host Florida, which is going to be another night game. So this team is just amped up. I think they're just very excited, and I think that they are not looking back at all. I think that they got out of that win. They beat that Auburn team. It was a sloppy game. Doesn't matter. Won the game on Mississippi State. I'm going to choose – I'm thinking the A&M's offense is going to score here. I think 42-24 is my final score prediction.
42-24? Not bad.
I'm going to say 24 because I think Mississippi State's offense will have their moments. So I'll say that they score a little bit here. So
Yeah, I think I agree with you, but just barely. I think that this is a Mississippi State team that does have a very much more potent offense, like we discussed earlier, it's definitely one of those spots where you're going to have desperation coming out from some of these offensive players. Like I said, they don't get penalized as much on offense. They could have a very very potent offense, but I also do agree that this DB room from Mississippi State is probably not going to be able to hold this newfound passing attack from these wide receivers that A&M has. So I think I'm going to go A&M plus the points to win outright as well. So I think this is a game where the Aggies can get up into the 40s. I think they just break 40. So I think what I'm going to do is 41-20 because I do think Mississippi State is one of those teams where they are going to score, but I think in that 20-24 range is probably where they're limited because you're going to have to score at least 30 to beat this A&M team this week.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I'm really going off of the defense, and I think when you have a potent run game and Marcel Reed is accurate and he's playing like he did against Auburn, and you are not having the penalty issues ramp up as much as they did, it's going to be hard not to score, and it's going to be hard not to have efficient drives because we've seen throughout the season, including the first two games, like they are too electric in certain areas, and they are too fast, they're too quick. Marcel Reed has not had a game yet where you can honestly say, yeah, he wasn't good, right? He hasn't had one of those yet. I don't know if he's going to have one of those yet because it was kind of funny, and we'll kind of finish with this. I was thinking about the Texas game today because of Will Lee. So I was kind of thinking of his interception return. And I was thinking back to that game, and I'm just like, man, it was just crazy. It was kind of like the Auburn game, right, for A&M. A&M was the Jackson Arnold. They were the Auburn offense. Mm-hmm. And it was mainly because they were lacking the type of playmakers and the system and the depth. And you just think how different and completely revamped they are in that area where you can't go into any game now this season and go, we can't beat you in these areas, right? So that's why I'm so confident in that. I just can't. Like we'll go down the line and we'll look at the road games with Arkansas and LSU, Missouri, and when we get to that point, we're all going to have worries in, certain matchups on defense, certain matchups with wide receivers, certain matchups in the run game that are likely going to favor the other team. But I'll give you an example, like LSU losing to Ole Miss on the road. I'm not that scared of LSU right now. That's how I kind of look at it, right? I'm more scared of Missouri than I am LSU right now because if A&M can just do what we expect them to do at home, and then you go on the road against a program that's really in shaky ground with Arkansas, and like we said, we'll see what they look like this weekend and the weekend after that, unless they have a bye week, I'm not sure. But then, yeah, you look at the rest of the slate, and I think one of the Texas guys said it best. If A&M can't beat LSU and Baton Rouge this year, are they ever going to do it? And I kind of agree with that. It's like, but these games matter. This game on Saturday matters. It's a defining moment against a SEC team, like you said, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, plays very efficient offense, trust their playmakers, and they're looking to shock the world on Saturday. They're looking to come in Kyle Field, in a blackout, and say, screw that, we're not scared of you. A&M's going to have to be the aggressor here and say, you know what? We are the team that you guys expect that we are, right? We're going to live up to those expectations. So I think that we're both on the same page there. I think it's going to be a great game either way. We didn't know that it was going to be Auburn game last week was going to be the way it was. It just happened to be that way. I don't think this is going to be that type of game, but who knows at this point.
We're just going to have to watch on Saturday.
Watch it and hope that all the progress they make this week actually comes to fruition. But I don't know. I just think it's different with these night games. I just think that these guys play amped up, and I do think that the Mario Craver thing is going to
come into play.
Yeah, I think he's going to really come to play. I think he's really going to have one of his best games because
who knows?
Yeah, because you know what I mean. Like we know when these guys enter the transfer portal, there's something going on with the other end. Like they didn't do enough to keep me. They didn't do enough NIL wise to say, we really need you to stay, like they've done with other players. And look, that you take it personal, right? That gives you some juice. Like A&M wanted you outright. Like the story of Mike Elko talking to Will Lee and all them, like, and Will Lee's telling him, go get him, right? Go get, like, you are wanted by everybody here. And they kind of like said, well, we can do without you, right? And that's how you have to look at it, right? So it's gonna be very fun to see Craver have one of those maybe 200-yard games. I don't know.
What a great show we have tonight. We're coming off a great weekend. So as always, guys, please like, share, subscribe to Texas A&M Aggies Live at the Voice of College Football Network. I've been Cannon Torres. He's been Cameron Honesty. Cameron, where can they find you?
Obviously on X, they try to be a little more active on game day and through the weekend. So at Cameron Honesty, you can find Cannon at Torres Cannon. And like he said, we're going to be back next Tuesday night obviously reviewing this weekend's game. We will have Florida preview. That's going to be very interesting. I'm not sure if we're going to have a guest yet. We'll talk about that during the week. But Florida's got a big test, right? They're gonna play Texas. It's big for Texas. This is a Florida team that just lost to Miami in one of the weirder games where they almost had that game. If they had any offense, any passing offense, they could have won that game. I don't know if Florida's bad.
We'll see.
We'll see, right?
Back. We'll see.
That's what I'm kind of previewing, right? Yeah, that's what I'm going to preview. It's going to be if they can get through Mississippi State. Obviously, it was announced on Monday that this is going to be a night game in Kyle Field. So that's another game to watch. I think it's an afternoon game. I'd have to look, but
the Florida game or the
Florida Texas, yeah,
yes,
yeah. So for all of you who want to obviously hate on your rival, but also kind of scout what the team that A&M is playing in the next 2 weeks, that's a perfect game to watch because I don't know. I mean, DJ Lagway's, they're getting one of the best wide receivers, one of the best deep threats back. So this could be a different Florida team that we see. So either way, it's been a great show, like you said. As always, Gig'em, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday.